Hey everybody, Nerd Transformed here again, and today I'm reviewing the Power Rangers Megaforce Gosei Great Megazord. Now, Megaforce is based on the Japanese Super Sentai Goseiger series, and while the Megazords and overall looks of the Zords are very similar, they're also built very differently from their Japanese equivalents. They also have a lot less paint, but we'll get to that in a minute. Overall, the set does look fairly accurate to show, and it's really good for kids. But we're going to start with the first sword here. Oh, crap. Oh, brain's already had a brain fart. Sorry about that. Okay, Gosei Phoenix Megazord. Now, yeah, the individual Zords are referred to as Megazords. So, this is Gosei Phoenix. And yeah, for whatever reason, they're carrying over the name Gosei from the Japanese version. With the Super Sentai version, kind of made sense there because, Goseiger, but here, it seems kind of random. But as I mentioned, here's Gosei Phoenix, which I think it's actually supposed to have its wings like this. But I'm not sure. I kind of prefer just to kind of leave them like that. Makes it look more like a bird, I guess, or a wing. Because like that, I guess that could be it for landing. Anyway, each of these I kind of refer to as Megazords because they do all have like this thing similar to like if you remember Power Rangers Ninja Storm, the Zords were actually formed from vehicles, like the bird from that series was formed from a jet and so on. These are actually going for a lot more of that, as each of them is like an animal head attached to like a vehicle's body almost, or at least like a half and half thing going on. So that means each of them have wheels, and each of them are kind of vehicle-like except for the head. So you can see here, Phoenix is kind of like a small jet with the little wings here, with little jet engines on the end of them, kind of like a wiring detail going on there. It's got some silver in the middle, which is meant for the arm mode, and the things that are best painted on these are usually the heads, or headers, if you're going by the Japanese name. Got some pink on here on the top, some silver for the brow, gold beak, and a little bit of blue for the eyes. And it does carry over the Japanese gimmick where the heads do pop off and you can mix and match them. If I wanted to take, say, Tiger and switch it with Phoenix here, you can do that. Any header can work with any header spot. You could take Phoenix, plug her onto the top of her own jet mode and leave Tiger on there and have that going on if you want. There's a lot of different combinations, a lot of different little head figures you can get, especially the Japanese version. So yeah, there is that. That's the gimmick. And it looks alright. Rolls alright. I think the only paint missing from the Japanese version is there is silver here. And for these, they left them as the same classic color as the rest of the toy, while the Japanese versions, all these little attached ports were black. So that's the difference. Looking at Tiger Megazord here, or Gosei Tiger Megazord if you prefer. A little bit more paint, you get all the gold paint right here for the, what should we call it? Treads. There we go. The treads are black plastic, but they get gold paint for all the little mechanical details. There's some silver up here with striping, a little silver disc going around where the port is. And the face itself gets some silver paint for the teeth, some silver for the little brow area, and some blue for the eyes. And it's nice his teeth actually got painted. We didn't even get that on the on the 2010 re-release of the Mighty Morphin Megazord. But as I mentioned, same gimmick. You can move it to other ports if you want. You can move it to other figures. You can do all that. Nothing really going on here. It does roll. You may notice along the bottom there is this little piece that flips out, and Snake has this too. And this is for our combination with other Zords that you can get, which I don't plan on getting. So basically, there was a Zord combination where you attach these like bicycle things to the back of these things to help hold up all the headers that it has for that mode. Yeah, I won't be going over that. It's kind of crazy, but Tiger's already here. It's kind of like a drill tank thing going on. Or maybe it's more just a drill. You can put a drill piece on this. So there's that. It's an alright little Zord. Next we have Gosei Shark Megazord, who is a submarine, I believe, based on how he looks, and that kind of makes sense for a shark. In which case, this little port piece back here might make sense because you can pretend it's a submarine hatch. But, once again, it has a decent amount of paint. It's got some gold here for the little platoon things, or whichever you want to prefer to call them. It's got some silver going all the way around with some silver for down here. I believe on the Japanese version, these actually folded out, but here they're kind of just folded in place. And once again, he gets some kind of silver going around for the brow, going up on his eyebrows there. A little bit of gold for the eyes, and some silver for the front lip. I wish the teeth got the silver instead. Like instead of this lip piece, we got it along here. I think that would have looked a lot better. Also wish you got some gold or something right here, but, you know, that's something you can fix yourself if you want. Once again, port gimmick, head comes off. No other pieces come off. And, once again, he rolls alright. So yeah, he's an alright little Zord. One of the big disappointments from the Japanese version was Gosei Snake. Now, Snake here, as you can clearly tell, forms the legs. I mean, he's got the entire crotch piece of the Megazord just hanging off of him. Now, granted, they did put some detail in here to kind of make this look more like part of the train with him, and he does have all the little train pieces. And it does all roll together. But yeah, it's just the Megazord crotch sticking out, and he's got like fake little wheels along the bottom there with a big old port on the side. So I mean, you could attach like another one to Gosei Megazord if you wanted like that. Have it be like a side piece. It does not fit on there quite right though, but yeah, that is an air Zord port. You got one back here for the other leg. But one of the big disappointments is that you can actually use the leg joints to make the the Megazord leg joints to make the snake go in and out. In the Japanese version, there was actually cuts here to where it could go both ways, so you could have it bending back and forth and make it actually look like a snake coiling around. Unfortunately, they didn't carry that gimmick over, which kind of stinks because it was a cool little gimmick. But, you know, pretty okay looking train. I mean, it definitely has train details. It's got like all the little windows right there, even though they're not painted. It looks like a train if you take the snake head off, or it looks like just a really fancy train if you prefer. Only paint it gets is... Well, this isn't paint, this is gold plastic, so yeah. Only paint it gets is the top right here with silver, top here, and once again, silver for the brow, red eyes, and little bits of silver for the teeth there. I do like how those red eyes look, though. He looks very unimpressed with life, like, I do like how it looks, though. It makes him look like a very dangerous snake. And finally, the biggest change out of all of them is Gosei Dragon Megazord. Now, before I go into the details and all the stuff with him, let's talk about him versus the Japanese version. Japanese version, no matter what, it's going to be much more show accurate, not just because of paint, but because of sculpt. Because you might notice he has a rather short tail compared to the Japanese version. That's because he's kind of rebuilt, as like the middle of the body is pretty much completely rebuilt, as well as the tail from the Japanese version. You can especially tell because the Megazord head's sticking out right there. If you don't know, on the Japanese version, this piece right here where the neck is actually pops off, while here, it collapses in for the transformation. So, let me go ahead and get the head out just to show kind of how this works, because for transformation, the head is a part former, it just kind of pops out into where the Gosei port is. However, on the Japanese version, it flips out from here. It just like, flips out like that. And instead with this one, instead of this piece flipping out, this neck collapses. While in the Japanese version, this was a separate piece you would pop off the head off of it, and pop it back on here to give the appearance of it disappearing inside. Also in the Japanese version, the sword was not have this big gaping hole here because they didn't have to hold the head. Like that. And there was also another piece similar to the neck to make the tail longer that was sitting right here. And you would take those two pieces from the neck and the tail piece here, attach it to the tail sword to make a giant like sword staff. But here we just get this single piece for the sword. So yeah, that's the big major difference between this and the Japanese version, if you're curious. Also, like all the others, he does still have the wheels, so you can roll him around if you want. As far as paint goes, he's pretty decently painted, although he does have some clearly missing stuff. I mean, you get the black along the bottom of the tail for the sword. Get a gold trim for the wings, looks very nice, unless you start moving the wings around, which it doesn't cover there. You get some gold along the chest here until it stops at the neck. I really wish this carried over in the Japanese version. The head on this guy is really nicely painted, though. This spike up here, I believe, is just gold plastic, but the other four are all painted nicely in gold, with even a silver trim around the bottom ones and the top ones, leading to the little visor above his head. A little bit of a silver for the nose, black for the mouth on the bottom, and then some green for the eyes. Once again, the teeth aren't painted, but it's still quite a bit of paint for something this small, and it's really nice. I wish the rest of his body got some, especially right here, and I wish like maybe some silver tips for the toes or something. And the sword definitely could have used the gold trim there. But it's nice at least one piece of this figure is really nicely painted. And articulation-wise, because he does actually have some, the wings do rotate around. Head doesn't move at all unless you want to do it like this. Tail can technically move up with his hinge if you want. Wings are on a hinge on both sides going up and down, so you can have them flapping. And if you want them kind of more roosting, they are on a hinge here as well. I don't think the Japanese version did this, so I think this is something unique to the American version, which is kind of nice. So you can actually do that to kind of make him look like he's roosting or something, or speeding along. So that's kind of cool. Now let's get down to transformation. It is a pretty easy transformation. It's Power Rangers. It's mostly parts forming. So what you're going to do is take the back end of Snake here, where what's clearly the leg ports, plug it into Tiger, like so. Go ahead and bend these down to form the legs. Flip up their head portions, and it'll flip out to give them heels on both ends, like so. And we're going to bring the camera back, or up to show you what's going on next. Next, take Dragon. He'll just pour it onto the top here, like so. Go ahead and come to the back of Dragon and remove the entire tail piece. It just comes right out. It's not really using the Zord Builder port. And with that out of the way, that gives you the room to collapse Dragon neck in. Alright. Now you're going to take Phoenix. The wings are on hinges. They just flip down like so. And you just attach an arm. Same with Shark, but instead you're going to split his tail. Like so, and it'll flip down. Then you attach the other arm. And finally, pop open the bottom of the tail, or the sword if you prefer. Pull out the head, and it'll just simply attach like that. And of course, you can give him the sword in his hand. And there you have the Gosei Great Megazord in its giant robot mode. And now that we have the Megazord in, well, Megazord mode, let's go ahead and get a size comparison in here. Here we have RAD Combiner Force Warrior Class Blur for comparison. And you see he's about twice the size of a Warrior Class. So he's a pretty big figure. And most of the details on him are carried over from the other modes. I mean, granted, this is, even though this was visible in the trade mode, this is the mode it's kind of meant to be seen in, so it's kind of got this like belt appearance. Some of the new details that I do like, though, are what's going on with the Shark and Eagle. Because before, if you don't remember, they kind of looked like this at the side. They didn't really resemble each other. But now they got this like symmetry thing going on. Like the platoons on this side and the edges of the wings on Phoenix's side actually match each other. And on top of that, the top of her wings and the inside of his tail actually do also match each other. Now, Shark Megazord's detail doesn't carry over quite as far, but it has this very similar circuitry kind of three-line gold look going on both sides, which is pretty nice. I like the symmetry of that, considering they're completely different kind of animals than Zords. And I'm going to pop off the head just so you can get a better look at it. You can see the sides of the head is dumped in silver. The head's actually painted across the top, which is pretty nice. It could have stopped halfway back if they really wanted to be lazy about it. But, you know, you get this, like, silver top going on with a black trim around it. You get a nice little gold symbol right in the center of the forehead. Some gold spikes kind of carrying over the dragon's aesthetic right here. And the face itself looks pretty nice with some silver, blue for the eyes, and a little black piece for the chin. It even outlines the face going all the way back, so it's pretty nicely painted. I mean, it is really nicely painted for just the head. And in this mode, they kind of did carry all the paint to the front, too. I mean, you look at them from the back, and yeah, not too much paint going on. But they did utilize what they had there, which is why I think the paint was so sparing. And you might already notice one of the issues with this figure. Now, because of these here, the wings, they are also on, like, much smaller Zord Builder ports. Like a smaller version of the Zord Builder ports that hold the Megazord together. And because of that, it does give him the articulation, but it means whenever he's holding something like a sword, you can see, just to show you, this is where his wing is supposed to be in his arm, but because the wing and the arm sag from the weight, it does that. Now, the arm itself does sag slightly. Like, if I do this, you can see there is a slight movement with it, but most of that is from the wing. And unfortunately, there's not much you can really do about that. I mean, you can tighten the peg piece a little bit, but it's really not going to help much. So whichever arm you're holding the sword with is pretty much just going to sag, unfortunately. And the sword is just the TL from the Dragon mode, so not too much different, but it does make for a nice looking sword. It even kind of has this like wider piece at the bottom to make more of like a handguard than compared to the Japanese version where it was more like a staff. So there are the differences. You can even kind of get him holding the sword straight up if you want by using the chain with the hinge piece to make it look more like that. Now, as far as articulation, he's kind of your typical Megazord. He's a brick, but you can kind of cheat with it. For one thing, you can't turn the head around unless you want to force it. But you can have him looking backwards if you want. Just to get some, you know, creepy horror movie thing going on. The arms do a full rotation. And the wings are on those separate hinges as well as the hinges all up here, which means you could actually rotate them back if you want. And give it more of your standard wing pack instead of the wings over the shoulder like the show has. Which I do kind of prefer this look. I mean, this look isn't bad. And it does make more sense as far as how wings actually work, because realistically speaking, wings you want them top like a bird does. But if you want kind of more of the angelic or the demonic, I guess if you prefer wing style, you can use the hinges and even have them folded up out of the way if you want. Or even have them fold up further onto his back like so. Which does give him some back kibble, but hey, if you don't want the wings visible, you can do that. I prefer kind of just displaying like that, like halfway opened. Or fully out. But for now, I am going to put him back in the position you're supposed to put him in. But as I mentioned, articulation-wise, arms do a full 360. You can say he has wrist movement because you can unplug the header. And it has 3 different positions, as you can see. So, you could have it to where it's like that. Or you could have it kind of twisted around looking quite painful. Don't really quite notice the difference, but it can help with the sword. As if we go with a shark header and turn it about there, you can see you can actually have him holding the sword in a different pose if you want. Almost like he's slashing upward. Also with the loose joints, you can almost get like almost like a gimmick going. So that can be handy. I'm not sure if you want to count that as articulation, but it is there if you want to use it, even though it's not the proper way to use it. Oh yeah, one problem here is that the shark tails are kind of loose. Enough of that at the waist. I mean, there is technically movement, but it's not going to hold at all. Legs, you can go outward with if you want to do like a high flying kick, although he's not really going to stay in that pose. I mean, you could probably get him to balance if you wanted. Maybe. Probably not, considering his legs are just one little thin piece. But you could do that if you wanted. And, I mean, there is foot movement technically, but without any actual hip movement, there's no knees or anything. Yeah, he's a brick. Basically, there's arm articulation, there's wing articulation if you want that. Like so. But yeah, that's about it for the Megaforce Gosei Great Megazord. It's very similar to the Japanese version in many ways, and in other ways it does things very differently. I do like the transformation actually a bit better than the Japanese version. I do like that he has a normal hand sword. Although, I'll be honest, that having that hand sword kind of ruins his combination with Gosei Grand. Or Gosei Ground, depending on which way you want to say that. Because now that staff was meant to be combined with Gosei Grand to make a much bigger, more powerful staff. But when you combine it now, it comes out looking a little fiddly. We'll get to that when we review him as well. But as an individual piece, he's a pretty neat little figure. Do I think he's better than the Japanese version? Not quite. There is definitely some things that he does better in some ways. Like I said, the transformations are more interesting. And I don't mind that the sword is just a sword instead of a staff. Even though I think that's show inaccurate. But he's missing a lot of paint the Japanese version had. Plus, to be honest, that also means if you find this figure secondhand, you're gonna have to hunt down the head, and good luck doing that. I mean, let's just think about how many pieces that this thing is gonna lose. You know, wing coming off, all that, you know. The dragon's going to come apart in like 5 different pieces. Good luck hunting all that down secondhand. So yeah, I would recommend if you're going to get this guy, try to get him new, or at least make sure he has all the pieces he's supposed to have. As far as, is he going to replace your Japanese version? No, he's not going to replace your Japanese version. Is he cheaper than the English version? Or is he cheaper than the Japanese version? I believe so. I think he's going up in price now. If you can get him for the $30 that I paid for him, I would say go for it. But I think he's heading towards $50 now. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's worth $50, but if you're looking for him, you find him for $30. I'd say he's probably worth it. He's a fun little figure. He's not the best, but he's not bad either. I think he's a pretty good representation of the mecha from the show. And I do think he's a fun toy. If you're looking for one that you can customize or something, he'll do for you without having to mutilate a Japanese version. So, this is Jerry Transformed. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.